I'm always grateful for the indoor plumbing and water.
Isn't it crazy? That's like
Yeah,
something so basic to us.
I know, but it's like I remind myself, and I've seen, videos where people have to walk miles for water, and sometimes their water source dry out,
Yeah.
and they have to bring back dirty water, and then they have to filter it. But then when you boil it, you lose some water from evaporation. So I'm like, all that work for so little water. Those are things that I don't think about every day, but as when things get hard, I count my blessings, and I'm like, that in itself is a blessing that you don't have to go fetch water.
Especially like you said in situations like this. Because can you imagine like being in a third world country right now and you have a pandemic to deal with?
Yeah.
Like how much more difficult is it?
Hi, welcome to the Magnetic Mismatch Show. This is Linda.
And this is Will. Welcome back to another episode, everybody. I'm still thinking about that cake we had yesterday. We still have a little bit left, actually.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous because during normal times, non-COVID times, when it was safe to share your food, we would actually share the cake. But
We'd share it with our parents or siblings or something.
yeah. But this time around, we actually ended up eating it all ourselves.
It wasn't that big of a cake, though.
No, it was only like 6 inches.
And it's like it's like a taste of childhood, our childhood, because we grew up like
in the same area.
Yeah, but like these cakes, I think like they're very popular in the Asian community, right? Like everybody kind of knows about them back in the day. It's like it has like strawberries.
It's like a strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
But it's a lighter and less sweet version of the American strawberry shortcake. And it's from this bakery that's very famous, actually, in the LA area.
Uh-huh.
It's called Phoenix.
Yeah,
and
Phoenix Bakery.
And they've been around for like 80 years, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like a little piece of history you're eating.
I think you got most excited. Well, we wanted it, right? I was the one that was like craving it. I don't know how it came up, but we were just talking about like, damn, remember those snacks back then?
Yeah.
And then we were bummed because we were trying to look for curbside pickup, especially with the quarantine right now.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, they didn't offer curbside.
No. But then I got happy. One day I was scrolling through Postmates and they happened to be on there. And I just decided to order a cake. Why not?
Yeah, and then I ended up being the one trying to talk you down. I was like, no, we should be good. We shouldn't eat cake right now. We eat enough snacks and junk food and all that stuff. I don't know.
And I told you, fine, you can watch me eat the cake. That's fine.
Yeah. Then I changed my mind real quick.
Yeah.
But so anyway, speaking of the quarantine, I don't know about you, but I'm so over this. I'm like ready to just I don't know. I know I say that, but I'm not going to do anything crazy, of course.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm starting to feel the pandemic fatigue, like a lot of us are feeling.
Because we're like, what, almost a year into? No, we're like a little over half a year.
8 months, I think.
Yeah.
8 months into it. And I think a lot of people have almost to the point where they've just given up, right? And just going back to the normal day to day as if the pandemic is not happening.
Uh-huh.
But, I have to remind myself, just because I'm over the pandemic doesn't mean the pandemic is over.
Right. Ooh,
right?
That was nice.
And I think, I like sometimes I just want to give myself a little slider, like, oh, I really want that haircut, or that facial, or when I know businesses are open.
They are technically reopened.
Yeah, but
just being a little bit more on the safe side.
I'm just erring on the safe side, just because I don't want to feel the guilt of potentially passing this unknown, this virus onto somebody else. Because especially right now where treatment is still fairly in its early stages, right? It's better than it was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
There's no vaccines yet. So it's just like, I just don't want to live with guilt. And this is what is keeping me strong and preventing me from doing the things that I would like to do.
Yeah. I think especially because we're out here in the US, but I think what makes it harder is when you're seeing like other countries, not all, right? But like you're starting to hear about some countries that are getting out of quarantine or lockdown, and they're reporting like very low or zero cases.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, oh man, they get to go back to their normal, or they have their freedom back. You know what I mean?
Somewhat, I think.
Somewhat, yeah. People are still cautious.
Because there are countries that are going through a second shutdown right now.
Right. Europe, especially right now. Yeah. So it makes it difficult, and I think I get it, I think we both have our days too, where it's just like, should we just go back and start doing stuff? But it's like, no, we shouldn't,
Yeah. And I think what's helped us is that we would sit there and count our blessing. The fact that we get to work from home, and the fact that we get to quarantine.
Yeah.
That is a privilege that I think, we should be thankful for.
Right. Yeah.
Because not everyone, gets that.
No, exactly. And we talked about gratitude in one of our earlier episodes. I forget which episode it was, but like episode 3 or something. Yeah. Early on. But yeah, so like earlier in the year when this all started, like we talked about being grateful and just, counting our blessings in a way too, for being able to quarantine safely. Mm-hmm. But here we are like 8 months into it. And now it's like, I still feel like there's no end in sight. We don't know when this thing is going to be over.
Yeah, that's like the frustrating part, is that you don't know when this is all going to end. And as the holiday approaches, it's very difficult. And especially like, someone like me who is used to hanging out with my parents every weekend, mm-hmm. to now us stopping by and just picking up food, or dropping
at a socially distanced
and level. We're all wearing masks to keep each other safe. It's got, every time I leave there, it gets harder and harder. And then we were talking about the holidays, like what's gonna happen,
right? I think everybody's starting to wonder that.
Yeah,
because it is going to be interesting. It's going to be different for sure.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like business as usual, or like every other holiday that we would think about in the past. It's mm-hmm. the reality, like you were saying earlier, is that we're still in this.
Yeah. And I know, like with my parents, like if I'm like, yeah, let's have a holiday dinner, right? Knowing them, they'll be up for it. But then I have to be the one that puts my foot down and say, no, we can't do that. We have to keep each other mm-hmm. safe. We need to be safe until this pandemic is over, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, I mean, I also understand we're erring a little bit more on the side of caution. I know there's probably going to be people that will do some sort of like
like small gatherings, or but it's just interesting. It's like passing a turkey leg, like another meaning. Yeah. It's like, what do? Throw it across the room?
And how do you sit, right?
It's kind of like, and like how people walk around you, and it'll be quite an interesting holiday.
Hey, kudos, man! Like to people that are planning on doing that and figuring out like how to do it safely for everybody. Yeah, because I get it. It's the temptation is there, right? It's not like we don't think about that. It's like, oh, it would be so nice. It's just like, oh, other humans, just to see people in person versus through a screen, through Zoom or something, right? That most of us have been doing all year long. So it's like seeing another human, like being in proximity to them. It's like, mm-hmm. It's crazy how much we need that.
It's just like getting a hug from your friends, or just like the excitement of getting on a plane safely and not have to mm-hmm. think about, oh no, am I gonna get sick? Am I gonna get someone else sick? It's like, it's just like the stress. It's like it's too much for me to even want to do that right now.
Yeah. Like everything you have to think about every time you step out the door. you're having to do this whole ritual now, right?
Hand sanitizing. Did I touch anything? Don't touch your face. Put your mask on. It's just.
Well, and it's funny because then you even like at your parents' house, everybody has like this little setup by the door, before you head out. It's just like a cleansing setup, like alcohol wipes and all the stuff.
Yeah, like at my parents' house, like right at their door, they have hand sanitizer, like a bottle. And it's nice that
this is like the new norm now.
It's like the new norm. And I don't even see their face. I only see like them in the mask. And likewise, right?
Yeah. So it's definitely difficult right now. Like you said, as we head into the holidays but we wanted to do an episode, and that's actually today's topic, is counting our blessings. As much as like it might even sound like we're complaining a little bit, we're just expressing, how we're feeling. And I think the reality is like a lot of us are feeling burned out and also just a little frustrated, I think, with the situation and how challenging it has been, to move forward, I think, especially in the US with progress.
And I think what's hard is that it felt like it came out of nowhere. Right. There is no time to prepare. There is no one last party. Give everybody a hug and be like, I'll see you in like 2 years.
I wonder if people would have been able to deal with this a little bit like more. I wouldn't say, well, like if they would have handled this better, if they were allowed to like know, or they knew in advance, like, hey, this thing by this date is going to hit and then we're going to be in lockdown. I think people would probably take it a little bit better.
But
there's a breaking point.
But we saw it coming. It wasn't like we didn't see it coming. But I was in denial.
No, I think also that you see it, but it feels so far away because it's in a different country. But you know what I mean? It started in China, right?
Yeah,
and then
I just expected to kind of go away, kind of like SARS did. Right, it's just like,
give it a couple months. Or something.
They were able to stop it very fast.
Yeah, I do remember you telling me like we had that conversation.
Yeah, and I didn't expect for this to happen.
I think most people didn't think it was going to spread.
Well, I don't think the history has ever seen this.
Right.
But, this is just not something you've expected.
Yeah, the last time it happened was like over 100 years ago, right? With the Spanish flu. Yeah. So in modern times, it's definitely difficult.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm counting my blessings because I would rather be in a lockdown with the technology we have now.
That's what I'm saying.
Than versus like even 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't even communicate with people like, let's say 100 years ago. Like you can't see them at all.
Yeah.
Imagine they had to do a real quarantine.
They didn't have text messaging. No games to play.
Not even a telephone, right? Yeah. Or did they have a telephone back then? I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe. But what I'm saying is, they don't have the same technology that we have today that we can still stay pretty connected. I mean, again, it's not the same, of course, as like being there in person, but it's still pretty awesome that you can stay connected with your family without having to leave the house, especially right now.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a big difference. And that's what we're trying to focus on, I think, like right now to kind of help us. And we're doing this episode too is almost like a reminder to ourselves, like, all right, stay strong. This isn't over yet. And at the same time, no matter what's happening, even though it feels like the world's in chaos right now, it is always important to be thankful for what we have, right? And be just counting our blessings, to remind ourselves, right? Like we still have our health. Thankfully, we were able to safely quarantine at home. We still have running water. We still have a place to live. We still have food, right? That gets delivered to us on some weekends, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to still be thankful for.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you thankful for so far? Like, and I would say even in these last 8 months of being locked in.
Yeah.
Does anything jump to mind? Because I feel like there's always some positive, right? That can come from anything that's negative or adversity or any sort of weird situation that you're in.
Yeah. Like I was telling you, I'm always thankful for having running water, right? Having an in-unit washer and dryer.
Oh man, that's been such a lifesaver.
Right, because with the pandemic, they encourage people to wash like their sheets and their clothes and in hot water and more frequent and this, there's guidelines out there.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine not having an in unit to do that, because I remember my first apartment, when I was living on my own, I had to lug like laundry down 3 flights of stairs.
You guys didn't have an elevator?
No, we didn't have an elevator. And then I would have to walk like a pretty good distance to the laundry room. And it was really small. It was always packed. So I'm very grateful to have an in unit during this time.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling you too that like back when I was a kid, like we had to use that a couple of times, like to go do our laundry before we got a washing machine at home, was like bringing it to the laundromat. I think a lot of people, use that service, but it's not fun.
It's not, no.
You're sitting there waiting a couple of hours and assuming there's a free, like an open machine or a couple of machines that you want to use. And then you got to sit and wait or whatever.
Yeah.
And come back. It's just not the ideal situation.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So very grateful for us in this apartment to have that.
For sure. And like I said, I'm always grateful for the indoor plumbing and water.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. That's like something so basic to us.
I know, but it's like I remind myself, and I've seen, videos where people have to walk miles for water, and sometimes their water source dry out.
Yeah.
And they have to bring back dirty water, and then they have to filter it, but then when you boil it, you lose some water from evaporation. So I'm like, all that work for so little water. Those are things that I don't think about every day, but as when things get hard, I count my blessings, and I'm like, that in itself is a blessing, that you don't have to go fetch water. Especially
like you said, in situations like this, because can you imagine like being in a third world country right now and you have a pandemic to deal with?
Yeah.
Like how much more difficult is it? It was probably difficult before the quarantines or before this virus. What about right now? Like people trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like whether it's lugging water or not having electricity or the heat, during this past summer was so difficult.
It's like how could you practice good hand hygiene when there's no water?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Or I know like soap is even hard to come by in some countries.
Right.
I know like I think I read an article a long time ago where some hotels they like sanitize, like use soaps from the hotel, and they remill it. They like reprocess it into like into like new bars of soap, and they like give it out to those communities. Wow. Yeah. So, something as simple as soap that we don't think about.
Yeah.
Right? It's
a
luxury.
Nice. I mean, I feel like for the most part, right, this is why I'm so grateful, is just I feel like, yes, we've lost a lot of normalcy and freedoms that we normally get to enjoy, but if we're stuck in quarantine, it's been pretty comfortable, I would say, for the most part, because we have everything that we need. At least our basic needs. Yes, we don't get to travel like we normally do. Yes, we don't get to see people like we normally do, or just walk out the house whenever you want and just do whatever you want without fear or like worrying about like anything, right?
Yeah.
Those things are definitely not there, but we have, for the most part, everything we need, and we can, we still have internet and things like that, which, by the way, a lot of people still don't have internet in this world.
Yeah.
So that's another luxury. And it's just like, sometimes I just have to remind myself, the moment I catch myself like complaining or like whining about like, oh, I'm stuck in this house again and it's like, okay, be grateful.
Yeah.
Shut up. Be grateful.
And it's nice too, because it's given me time to work on projects and learn new skills that I've been talking about, wanting to do.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm actually getting the chance to do it.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
It's almost like what else are you going to spend your time doing? If you're locked in the house anyways, it's almost like you run out of excuses for yourself to like, oh, I don't have time or you know what I mean? It's like, dude, you have all the time in the world now. So it kind of pushes us to just get stuff done.
Yeah.
And things we've been putting off for a while, where even something as simple as like cleaning the house or like going through stuff, organizing,
or purging.
Yeah, purging your closet.
God, we did
and
such
things
a
like
good
that.
purge. Felt so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that. And I mean, if I think about it, it's kind of like this through this quarantine, these last 8 months, I mean, we wouldn't have this podcast if it weren't for us being stuck in the house all day.
Yeah.
You know?
The only reason why we started, we've been talking about this podcast, but the only reason why we actually decided to start recording was because our trip got canceled, and I had the time blocked off. So that's why it gave us the time.
Yeah. We're like, you know what? Why not now?
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm so glad we did it.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun. And
yeah. It's very therapeutic.
Absolutely. Every week I look forward to it. It's like, oh, I can't wait to like just vent or talk about stuff with you. And we have this dedicated time to just share with each other, to connect. You know, I love that.
Yeah. And the reason why this topic kind of came up was because, you know, last weekend I was having a very like difficult time.
And we all do, right?
With the quarantine, and I was in like almost like a rut. Like
you were blue. You had the blues for sure.
Yeah, and I just couldn't snap myself out of it. And then, you know, and it's just like
we had to talk.
We had to talk and remind ourselves how blessed we are, and you know what's helpful too is that every morning, you know, Will and I we write in our grateful journal, and we count our blessings, right?
Yeah, each of us lists out 3 things that we're grateful for today. And also I think it's helpful because saying it out loud is different. Writing it is different.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it real, and that's how you start your day. So when crap happens throughout the day, it kind of bounces off of you because you still remember what you're grateful for. You know, you kind of have that top of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think now more than ever, that's really been helpful for us just to stay sane and to like.
Yeah. We started doing yoga.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly.
Very regularly.
As well. And
pretty much every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped with just like relaxing the brain
and the body and everything.
Yeah. And it kind of helps you clear things out, you know, all those clutters you have in your brain, and it helps relax you. So when I was you know, very on edge about this quarantine still, it's helped a lot.
I like yoga and like meditation and all these things. And we've done it before. It's not like we haven't, but not as regularly as we have during this quarantine. More than ever, it's like, oh man, we were like getting on this yoga thing. But I like it because it's kind of like you get to empty your mind. You get to like you don't have to think, you know, during that like 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is you dedicate for yoga. And you feel so good afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like a way to just shut out all the problems, all the things that are happening. You get to escape for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. And also the other thing I've been doing a lot is cooking a lot.
Yes. Yes. So one of the things that I've been most grateful for is all the freaking delicious foods you've cooked for me this quarantine, because prior to this quarantine, even just as like recent as last year, you've never cooked for me as much as you have this quarantine.
No, because we would
not that you didn't want to. It was just
we were busy, but then you know it was easier for us to just go dine out.
Right, from time to time, we were still pretty good. Like
we were still pretty good, but
eat home most of the time.
But you know when we were craving for something, right?
Whether it's like a banh mi, like a Vietnamese sandwich, or cake, or acai bowls.
Yeah. It was easier just to go buy a bowl.
Yeah.
But now I make it pretty regularly. It's just like, easier like that.
It's almost like, but not by choice, but it's more like because of need, right? We have, or not need, but like a necessity is what I meant to say. Out of necessity, you've like been dabbling in a lot of different recipes too. Like you've made ramen. Like, I never would have thought. Did you think you were
No,
ever gonna make
it was
ramen at
pretty
home?
good.
It's really good. And then like Taiwanese, like
Beef noodle
soups, things that, like you said, we would never consider making at home because we always thought it was like, oh, it's just too much work, which is still a lot of
It's
work.
still a lot of work.
But like, we didn't think like we would have the ingredients, or like we didn't know how, right? We never really looked into it.
It never really interested us.
Yeah,
More
maybe
like
that's what it was.
It's easier.
It's like, why, right? Why?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'll just go eat some ramen.
Just go buy it. Somebody made it already for you, right?
Yeah, which is nice too.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do miss eating out though.
Yeah.
You know,
but I didn't want us to
sitting at a
feel
restaurant.
deprived.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of,
experiences.
that's partially what pushed you into cooking a lot more at home. But also, I think, you know, getting bored of the same foods allowed you to kind of expand what you cook as well.
Yeah.
Which has been great.
Because, you know, my specialty prior to the quarantine was baked chicken breast on a bed of salad. That was like the Linda's specialty.
Oh, man. So my stomach has been very happy.
So, yeah. So after, you know, a couple weeks of that, I'm like, okay, I need to diversify this.
And you get to watch like YouTube channels, right? YouTube videos, recipes,
for inspirations,
right? Yeah. And you get an idea of like, oh, and then, you know, it's gotten so good where this year where like you were telling me like, what do you want to eat? Like, make a request. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And then it's so crazy because now that we've kind of like checked off so many boxes from like all these food items that I want to eat at home, I don't even know what to eat, right? It's kind of sad, right? It's like, yeah, life is pretty good, you know? Like, we have it pretty good, especially in this country where we can, you know, quarantine so safely for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, many of us, right? We have the resources at home to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's the worst thing we have to worry about right now, like, I'm good with that.
And I'm grateful that, you know, my family is safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone is doing well and healthy. And basically, we just need to get out of this, you know, whole pandemic, all of us safe. And that's more than I can ask for. Yeah.
And I think what helps too is that, like, we have to acknowledge that there will be days where you feel blues, where you feel like depressed. Like, I get that, you know, you get that for sure, right? We both do.
Yeah.
But it helps to be able to have somebody to talk to about it. Just like, not try to suppress how you're feeling either, I think is important, because you can't be like, oh no, I'm not depressed, I'm not feeling blues. I mean, it's like, you could feel depressed. It doesn't mean you are depressed, in the sense that, like, it's not a clinical thing per se.
It's not like a clinical depression.
Right. It's like, you can feel depressed for that moment. It's like temporary.
Yeah.
Like, you can be angry for a minute, but then you'll get over it, right? Yeah. Same thing. You get blues, you'll get over it, you know? But
it's definitely hard. You know, because especially us, like, we're used to hosting like holiday parties and this and that and lunches and brunches, and, you know, going from that to nothing.
Yeah, we're all social creatures, right?
It's a definite change.
Yeah. I think the hardest, the people that get hit hardest right now or having the most difficult time are people that are typically like extroverts too. You know, they need to be around people. They feel energized around people. So when you take that away, I can see how it can be torture, right? Yeah. So I get it. But I mean, again, that was just, I think it just made us think about this topic, especially as we head towards the end of 2020. Thank God. It's almost over this year. But it keeps throwing stuff at us.
I know. It's just a terrible year. It's just, there's so many things happening in the world that it's just like,
it's a lot to take in.
It just makes me feel like, what else do you have throwing at us?
Yeah, but that's why we got to remind ourselves the positive stuff too. And I think it's important to maintain a positive attitude as much as you can. I mean, I know it's like we say it's hard in practice, but you have to. Like, what else can you do? Just fall into a spiral, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have to believe that we will get through this, because we always have, you know? And I think there is still positive news, you know, coming out as well. There is some progress that we're making, right, with vaccines and things like that.
And I think a treatment just got approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see, right? We'll kind of continue to push forward, hang in there, kind of thing. But I think it's just as we head into the holidays, it gets harder and harder.
Yeah. And just check in with your family and friends, see how they're
How
doing.
they're doing too. Yeah.
Yeah, like really ask them like how are you doing during the quarantine,
Hmm.
because it's very isolating.
It is. And it can mean the world, right? Just to get a phone call from somebody or like to know that somebody's thinking about you and your well-being, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think this is the time. It's a great time to just reconnect with people or stay connected with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, I think of whatever you're planning on doing during these holidays, we hope you guys all stay safe and stay responsible
Yeah.
and count your blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else. Do you?
No.
No? Okay. So make sure to follow us on our Instagram at Magnetic Mismatch. We also have our YouTube channel, of course, under the same handle. And if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to go ahead and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're on like TuneIn,
Stitcher.
Stitcher, all the major platforms.
Yeah. And make sure to also share our content if you enjoy it with your family and friends. And also make sure to tune in every Thursday because that's when we release new episodes.
Yep. All right. Until the next episode, guys.
Bye.
Bye.